Welcome back to Decentralized Application Development Crashcasts. I'm Sheila, and if you're enjoying our show, please take a moment to rate us on your favorite podcast platform. It really helps us reach more listeners like you.
And I'm Victor. Today we're continuing our journey through Chapter 2, Fundamentals of P2P Networks. We'll be diving into the fascinating world of unstructured networks.
Before we get started, I have a quiz question for our listeners. What popular file-sharing network, launched in 1999, was one of the first widely used unstructured P2P networks?
Ooh, that's a great question, Sheila. It takes us back to the early days of P2P networks. I'm sure many of our listeners who were around during that time might have some fond memories, or perhaps some frustrating ones, depending on their experience. It'll be interesting to see if they can recall this pioneering network.
Absolutely, Victor. Now, let's start by defining what we mean by unstructured networks. Can you give us a basic explanation?
Certainly, an unstructured network is a type of peer-to-peer network where the connections between nodes or peers are established arbitrarily. There's no specific topology or structure that the network follows. Instead, peers connect to each other randomly.
That's interesting. So, it's like a group of people at a party, mingling, and forming connections without any predetermined plan?
That's a great analogy, Sheila. Imagine a cocktail party where guests, our peers, move around and chat with others randomly. They don't follow a seating chart or any structured way of interacting. They just connect with whoever they happen to meet.
I see. So, what are some key characteristics of unstructured networks?
The main characteristics include their randomness, decentralization, and lack of a central index. Peers join the network by connecting to any existing peers they can find. This random connection pattern leads to a robust and fault-tolerant network.
That sounds like it could be both an advantage and a challenge. What are some pros and cons of unstructured networks?
You're right, Sheila. One significant advantage is their robustness. Because connections are random, if some peers leave the network, it doesn't significantly impact the overall structure. They're also highly scalable. New peers can easily join by connecting to any existing peer.
That makes sense. What about the disadvantages?
The main drawback is search efficiency. Since there's no central index or structure, finding specific content can be challenging. It often requires flooding the network with search queries, which can be bandwidth-intensive and time-consuming.
I see. So, it's a trade-off between robustness and search efficiency. How does this compare to structured networks?
Great question. Structured networks, in contrast, have a specific topology and often use distributed hash tables, DHTs, to efficiently locate content. They're generally more efficient for searches but can be less robust to churn. That's when peers frequently join and leave the network.
Interesting. Can you give us some real-world examples of unstructured networks?
Certainly. The early versions of GNU-Tella and Freenet are classic examples of unstructured P2P networks. More recently, some blockchain systems and certain IoT, Internet of Things networks, also use unstructured approaches.
That's fascinating. I've heard people say that all P2P networks are unstructured. Is that a common misconception?
Absolutely, and it's a great point to clarify. That's indeed a common misconception. While early P2P networks were often unstructured, many modern P2P systems use structured approaches or hybrid models that combine elements of both.
Got it. Any tips for our listeners who might be considering implementing an unstructured network?
The key is to carefully consider your use case. Unstructured networks shine in scenarios where robustness and ease of peer joining or leaving are crucial. However, if efficient search is a priority, you might want to consider a structured or hybrid approach.
That's really helpful, Victor. Now, I think it's time to reveal the answer to our quiz question. The popular file-sharing network launched in 1999 that was one of the first widely used unstructured P2P networks was Napster.
Well, Sheila, I hate to disagree, but that's not quite correct. While Napster was indeed launched in 1999 and was a pioneering P2P network, it actually used a centralized index, making it not truly unstructured. The correct answer is GNU-Tella, which was released in 2000 and was one of the first widely adopted unstructured P2P networks.
Oh, you're absolutely right, Victor. I mixed those up. Thank you for the correction. It's a great reminder of how these early networks paved the way for the P2P systems we use today.
Exactly, and it's a perfect example of why understanding the differences between various network structures is so important.
Absolutely. Now, let's wrap up what we've learned today. To sum up, unstructured networks are P2P networks with random connections between peers. They're robust and scalable, but can be less efficient for searches. They contrast with structured networks, which have a specific topology and often use DHTs for efficient content location.
Great summary, Sheila. Remember, listeners, the choice between structured and unstructured networks depends on your specific use case and priorities.
That's all for today's episode. If you enjoyed it, please visit crashcasts.com and consider joining our Discord community. Your support on Patreon helps us keep producing this content. Don't forget to subscribe and rate us on your podcast platform. Until next time.